Okay, so this is a Confluence site, Confluence Cloud, obviously. By the way, it is our sandbox, Radby sandbox, and anybody who wants can log in and join this space and view it in action. Please do that after the demo, not right now. But in principle, just that you will know that it's available to anybody who wants to join and see how it works in action. And you could test everything, including the electronic signature and what have you. This page has a workflow on it. The icon here says that this page is currently in the status of approved. So this specific version was approved. It's the official version number 3 of this document, and there is a unique document ID that was generated by the workflow app. If we scroll to the bottom of the page, a second, yes, we will see the change control table. The change control table is basically 3 rows, one for each of the historic approved versions. And for each one of those rows, we see the signature manifestations, the time that the version was approved, the version description, and the official version numbering. The number that you see here in parentheses is the Confluence version. So these are the unofficial versions that Confluence creates for each of the pages each time that you update it. And the link here is just basically a quick way to open up this version that was approved here. So this particular version 1 of this document, if I wanted to check it out, I could immediately open it here, and I basically get a historical view of that page with this particular version. Okay, let's now take the document through the approval process. Before we take it into approval process, we can always check out the published page. So we mentioned the fact that that there should be 2 spaces. One is a draft space and one is an official space. So this draft space is just called Draft eDMS with Workflows Webinar, which is the space I created for this webinar. And if I wanted to see the official version of this page, which is currently the same because this is still an approved page, I will just open it in a new tab. And this one is the approved version, the official version of the page in the master space. So physically, we are holding 2 spaces in Confluence, and there is an automated update of the master space each time that the page is updated. Okay, now let's assume we need to update the page. I do not have permission to update it because we have, by the workflow, restricted so that each time that the page is approved, there is specific restrictions that are applied to it. If I wanted to draft the page again and I have permission to go into this space, I will transition this document out of the approved back into drafting. So this is, again, it's a design choice. Workflows allows you to configure the flow, and this is how I chose to configure it here for the sake of the webinar. You may have other choices. So you may allow editing and then pushing back the document automatically to draft or whatever other design. Let's have a quick overview of the workflow here. Again, this is a workflow that we designed for the sake of this webinar. The initial state says that we are drafting a new version, and you can do as many updates as you want while drafting. When you're done drafting, we want to submit it to approval. And in our organization, we decided that there are 2 levels of approvals. One is a subject matter expert who needs to approve it. And then the quality team, one of the quality team needs to approve to give the final approval. Once the document has gained those 2 approvals, it will go through several steps. So these yellow blocks are automations that happen in the background. The document is approved, so these extra rows are added to the control table. Then it's being published it means that it's going to be updated to the master space, and then restrictions are going to be set on the page, and it will land in the status approved. So let's see how this happens. Let me just, for the sake of it, have a very quick update. So I will update. My keyboard is asleep. So I'll add new content and whatever other updates that I need to make. For example, specifically this page is part of our release documentation. It has user requirements to functional specifications. And this is basically this table here. So that table is an aggregation of data that comes from Jira. And just as a side note, this is a static table that is taken in a specific point of time. And when I do new release, I can just take a new snapshot and there will be an update to the page. So I can do that only when the page is in draft mode and I have edit access. And assuming that I wanted to generate new release documentation, I would just press take new snapshot. Then the user requirements, function specification tests, and test runs would be aggregated out of the current data in Jira and put here. And that's the most streamlined way that exists to create a full traceability report inside Confluence. So I'm done with all the updates that I wanted, and I'm ready to push a new version out for approval. I'm going to just push this button, create new version, and I will write a short version description, just demo for webinar. And here we go. I need to confirm. And this will move to subject matter expert approval. The way it's set out, I need to ad hoc assign someone to approve this. I will assign myself just because I'm here and it's easy for the demo. Typically, it may be 2, 3, but how many people that you need. And that's the stage. So everybody who is curious about the electronic signatures, that's the stage where I'm going to sign electronically with an authenticator app. So that's basically how we achieve the full signature in a standard that is compatible with FDA. And you don't have to. So workflow supports also an easier way to sign, but I just for the webinar, because we are talking about those peeps in medtech, I wanted to show that we have a way to implement a strict application, a strict signature. Now, based on the rule of the workflow, once I provided this one signature, it arrives to quality approval. Now it's assigned automatically to all people in my quality team. So in this demo environment, I'm the only person in the quality team, and anybody of us who will sign it will allow this document to be fully approved. Again, I'll take a fresh token. Let me check. So 14661. Okay, now basically all the automations happen in the background. There's this extra approval row that is created in the table, and the document is published and restrictions are set. So I no longer can edit the document. The restrictions are back in the red. And let's look at the master. I will refresh the page and I expect to see version 4 now. And indeed, we have version 4 and we have the new content. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I have the 4th row in the change control table. So that's a whole cycle of the approval process. And basically this is done. So this is the whole flow done. The document now is safely stored in the master, and it will not change until a new approval is published. While I, of course, can continue and change it here in the draft if I move it back into draft and continue to update for my next release. The next point that I wanted to show you here inside while we are in the demo, as I mentioned, very often we need to be able to export these documents into PDF. And while Confluence does have out of the box an export to PDF option, I think it's not enough. So from my experience, people like to have more control about how the export looks like. They want to guarantee that the layout is correct, the styling reflects the logo and the metadata of the document. So in this example, we have two pieces of metadata for each document. We have the ID and we have the official version. And if we use export by Scroll PDF Exporter, you have control over how the export looks like. And I created here specifically an export template that takes into account the data, the metadata that is provided by the Workflows app. And when I export it, it handles correctly the Workflows metadata. It exports it into the header of the page. Beyond, generally speaking, giving me much more control over the layout of the page. So I'll just show you what I mean by that. So this is the PDF that was exported. On the header of each page, we'll find the document ID and the version. The document is exported, and we even have the possibility to move between portrait layout and vertical layout because we have this wide table in this page. And when I scroll all the way to the bottom, I will also find my controlled document in a pretty nice layout. And again, I have much more control about how all these bits and pieces look like when I export it. So hence, really, Scroll PDF Exporter is a must-have to anybody who needs really nice-looking PDFs exported from their system.